Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Review Podcast, where each episode we take a look back at another classic episode of WWF Monday Night Raw. So we are up to episode 17 of Monday Night Raw this week. It's coming to us live on May the 17th, 1993, once again from the Manhattan Center in New York. Commentators tonight, Vince McMahon, Randy Savage, and Bobby the Brain. We cut in live to the arena where Vince welcomes us to the show. We start off with the ring girl walking around and go to the outside to see Bobby, Vince, Randy talking. Vince mentions that tonight we're going to see the Smoking Guns. Randy talks about the Special Olympics, and as he's talking we see some highlights from earlier in the day of a Special Olympian outside Madison Square Garden. We get the siren going off all the way through this. We can hardly hear Bobby as he's telling us whatever it is he's telling us. I can't quite hear him. We then get a rundown of the card, including Razor, an interview with Shawn, and Kamala's going to be in action as well. We get a recap of the Shawn and Mr. Perfect fight from last week, which is just the footage we saw last week reused. Then we cut to Lord Alfred standing outside. He says that he's seen someone in disguise, and as soon we'll all be as shocked as he is when we see who it is. We come back into the arena and out come the Smoking Guns for their Monday Night Raw debut. So our first match of the night is going to be the Smoking Guns versus Glen, Ruth and Tony Vadja? I'm not sure how they said his name. The Guns come out to the ring and fire off some guns that they've got with them. Fink jumps out of the ring, terrified. They fire them off quite a few times, although Bart does seem to struggle a little bit with his. Bart starts out to give us our first look at the Smoking Guns. Bart gets a couple of hip tosses, gets a tag to Billy, he comes in and takes down Glen with a clothesline. We get a tag to Bart, he's back in, they hit a double Russian leg sweep. Bart with a slam and Billy comes back in to drop the elbow and then a knee drop. We get another tag to Bart, he comes back in, only to tag Billy, who doesn't seem ready. Very quick tags between the two of them. Billy gets a drop toe hold and a knee drop. We get a suplex from Billy and then another double team. The Guns with too many tags to keep up with now. It's seriously just about every 30 seconds we're getting a different gun coming in. Bart comes back in, hits a leg drop to the arm. Billy comes in, hits a power slam and get another tag to Bart. Billy then whips Glen into the ropes, hits a back body drop. Now, Bart stood behind Billy, so he whips Glen into the ropes. Billy back body drops him. Bart, I'm going to say catches him, in inverted commas there. Bart catches him, and then I think maybe was trying to go for a power bomb or a pile driver, but it didn't look like Bart caught him, so he kind of messed it up, and he catches him and just kind of falls backwards, almost into a pile driver, but with no real control. It looked quite messy and also quite dangerous. But the Smoking Guns get the win, and they are victorious on their Monday Night Raw debut. We get the WWF Mania advert with Todd now. We come back to the arena and we get Randy and Bobby at ringside, and they hype Terry Taylor versus Tatanka on Mania this weekend. We go to Vince in the ring, who brings out Shawn Michaels for an interview, and as soon as the music stops, the Shawn is gay chants start up again. Bobby says that they're chanting that Shawn is great. Vince asks why did Mr. Perfect attack him last week. Shawn says he told everyone he would be the IC champion, and now he is, so kind of just ignores Vince's question completely. He says he'd defend the title all over the world, and he has. He had a match with Hacksaw, and he walked out the champion. He told everyone that he's better than Mr. Perfect, and says he's took his best shot, and look, he's still here as the Intercontinental champion. Vince says he's been a reluctant champion. Shawn says he's defended the belt with blood, sweat and tears. Shawn says that he's the best in the WWF and that he'll defend the belt anytime, anywhere, because he's the Heartbreak Kid and he doesn't fear anyone. At this point, we see a hooded figure just kind of casually walk into the ring and get in there. Shawn says, "Oh, you've bought a ticket, now go and sit down." The hooded figure takes down the hood, and it's Marty Janetty. Marty gets the mic and asks Shawn if he's a man of his word, and if he is, he asks him if he'll defend the belt against him tonight. Vince says, yeah, why not? Shawn says, yeah, he's a man of his word, but if Marty's got his stuff, then he'll wrestle him tonight. Marty says he'll go and get his stuff, and Vince makes the match. That's it, it's on for tonight. Shawn kind of reluctantly agrees. So after the break, we come back and we get Razor's music. For our second match of the night starts with Razor Ramon versus The Kid. So they talk about on commentary how Razor comes down to the ring, he doesn't want to be touched by the crowd. And this week, The Kid is just known as The Kid, after weeks of being the Cannonball Kid, Kamikaze Kid. I think Bobby says he was the No Hope Kid. Razor throws the toothpick at him, and The Kid and Razor lock up. Razor easily overpowers The Kid, get a hard chop in the corner from Razor, and the second one. Razor then tosses The Kid out of the corner and nearly all the way across the ring. We get an abdominal stretch from Razor, and he whips The Kid into the ropes. He ducks the clothesline but gets caught in a fall-away slam by Razor. Razor then slaps The Kid's head and whips him into the corner. Razor charges in, but The Kid moves and Razor hits the turnbuckle. So The Kid goes up to the top rope, hits a moonsault onto Razor, who's still standing up. They fall down, and that's it. The Kid gets the 1-2-3. He can't quite believe it, jumps out of the ring, runs around jumping and very, very happy with himself. Razor also can't believe it and goes mad as the Fink announces The Kid as the winner. So Razor comes over to the announcers and nobody can quite believe what just happened. It's nice to see sort of one of those moments that, you know, everyone knows from Monday Night Raw, but actually to see it in context. It was a really short match. It was very, you know, I kind of always assumed they had this big back and forth match and The Kid just got lucky somehow. But no, it was just a very short match. Razor was in control, the moonsault from The Kid, and he picks up the victory. We go to an advert break, and when we come back, we see one of the ring girls, and Vince can't believe that The Kid won. Bobby says that it was a fast count. Tatanka's music hits, and out he comes for our third match of the evening, which is going to be Tatanka versus Scott Taylor. So Vince again mentions that Tatanka's undefeated. Scott mocks Tatanka, and he gets taken down with a hard clothesline and a back body drop before getting back body dropped out of the ring. Tatanka goes over and out to the outside after Scott and hits a chop. He rolls Scott back in, whips him into the corner before hitting another chop. Vince mentions that Tatanka qualified for the King of the Ring tournament. Bobby starts talking about toilet roll and what people do with it, whether they're folders, scrunchers. He asks Vince if he wraps, rolls or folds his toilet paper. Not quite sure where we were going with that, but it was an amusing little aside on commentary. We get a power slam from Tatanka, who then hits an elbow off the Irish whip and another chop. He hip tosses Scott, and Scott hits a couple of punches, takes Tatanka into the corner, but Tatanka does his hulking up routine and hits a chop off the ropes, another chop, gets the Samoan drop, and Tatanka gets the win and keeps his undefeated streak. Next up, we get a King of the Ring report now with Mean Gene. He first mentions that the Kid beat Razor and Shawn versus Marty will be happening later on. Gene mentions that the main event of Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna is set for the King of the Ring, as well as the tournament to crown a new King of the Ring, or indeed the first King of the Ring. So 6 of the 8 people have now qualified. We know that the opening brackets, the opening round is going to be Bret Hart versus Razor, Bam Bam versus Hacksaw, and Lex Luger versus Tatanka. So this weekend we're going to have Shawn versus Crush in a non-title match, and Kamala versus Mr. Hughes in the other 2 qualifying matches still. We come back to the arena and it is time for our 4th match of the evening. It is going to be Kamala versus Yokozuna. So Kamala comes out just before we go to break, and then when we come back we get a Tatanka Ico Pro advert and the Macho Man Slim Jim advert before finally going back to the ring to see Yokozuna coming down with Mr. Fuji. Vince says that he doesn't believe that Yoko is only £505 now. They talk on commentary about the controversy around the match at WrestleMania and how Bret hasn't had a rematch. Kamala looks confused in the ring as Yoko poses and gets into his sort of sumo stance. They charge at each other and Yoko seems to come off the worst and staggers around. They do it again and Yoko almost goes down. I mean, I get that they're putting over Kamala as being, this tough Ugandan fighter, but at the same time, Yokozuna is far, far bigger at this point than Kamala. Kamala with a kick to the chest and chops, but Yoko doesn't go down. Yoko hits a chop and takes over, hits another chop, but Kamala won't go down either until he gets a couple more, and then he just does. They talk on commentary about how Yoko's bulking up for his match against Hulk, while they've heard that Hulk is going to be slimming down. Yoko hits a leg drop, lifts Kamala up. Kamala hits a series of chops in the ropes as Yoko staggers, and we get a USA chant as the Ugandan starts to fight back against the Japanese. Fuji trips Kamala, and Yoko hits the big kick before squashing Kamala in the corner, who, what would you know, he falls down, back first, ready for the bonsai drop. Yoko goes up, squashes Kamala, and we hear Vince with a call to say that it was a kick and a squash in the corner as a manoeuvre. So, yeah, Vince living up to that reputation that he has now for just calling everything a manoeuvre. It's the first time I've really noticed it, to be honest, but yeah, there we go. We then get an All-American Wrestling promo with Bobby and Mean Gene. Vince mentions that Sherry will be a guest on American Wrestling this week. Vince introduces Shawn as his music hits, and out he comes. So we're going to have the match now after the break. We come back and Shawn's music is still playing, but then out comes Marty. Randy welcomes him back, and Vince says that anything can happen after we saw the Kid beat Razor Ramon. Shawn Michaels versus Marty Janetty now then for the Intercontinental Championship. We get a lock-up to start, and Shawn backs Marty into the corner and hits punches. Marty gets a 2 off a roll-up and a 2 off a sunset flip. Another lock-up, and Marty gets the headlock, whips into the ropes. Marty ducks 2 clotheslines before hitting one of his own. Marty then throws Shawn to the outside and hits a baseball slide to take Shawn down on the outside. Marty comes back in, and Shawn walks around on the outside. Marty comes out, throws him back in. Marty lowers his head though, and Shawn takes over. Marty catches him with an arm drag and a head scissors. Shawn gets kicks in elbows and taken down by a back body drop. Shawn then gets whipped into the ropes, and he goes upside down into the corner, falls to the outside. It's been a really fast-paced match so far, this opening. Shawn gets the belt from the Fink and goes to leave, but as he goes down the aisle, Mr. Perfect comes out and forces Shawn to come back down to the ringside as well as back into the ring as we go to another break. When we come back, Marty and Shawn take turns ramming each other headfirst into the corner. Marty takes Shawn back outside. Shawn gets Marty up and drops him across the top rope. Both men are down now as Shawn then gets up and starts choking Marty. Shawn with quick right hands in the corner and chokes Marty with his boot. Shawn then with a leg drop to Marty over the second rope, and Shawn drops the knee and gets a snapmare into a headlock. Mr. Perfect's still out there, just standing around watching on from ringside. Marty fights back, but Shawn hits a drop kick. Goes for another, but Marty catches him and slingshots Shawn into the turnbuckle. Both men are down now again, as Marty slowly crawls over, gets the arm over, but Shawn kicks out at a close 2. Shawn then whips Marty, but lowers his head. Marty catches Shawn and takes Shawn down. He mounts Shawn and starts hitting punches. We get a whip from Marty and a flying elbow, another whip and a power slam, just gets a 2 though. Shawn reverses the whip into the corner, and as Marty jumps to the second rope, Shawn falls flat to his stomach to sort of move out of the way, but Marty notices, so hangs on, goes up to the top rope. Shawn gets up and looks a bit confused as to where Marty is. Marty then hits the crossbody off the top rope, but again, only gets a 2 count. Shawn gets rolled up by Marty, but the ref's slow to count, so he only gets a 1 on this. Shawn then rolls through and holds Marty's tights. And when I say holds Marty's tights, I mean pretty much pulls his tights down. So we get a nice shot of Marty's crack. As Shawn gets a 2 count. Shawn hits the super kick, but he doesn't go for the pin. Instead, he stops to go over to the ropes and shout at Mr. Perfect. Marty gets back up, and as Mr. Perfect throws his towel in Shawn's face, Marty gets a small package, gets the win, and gets the clean-ish victory over Shawn and gets the Intercontinental Championship. So our new Intercontinental Champion, Marty Janetty. Marty goes wild on the outside. Shawn left in the ring, can't believe it. We go to a break, and when we come back, we see the towel that Mr. Perfect threw in the ring is just left lying in the middle. Vince has just got time to tell us that next week, here on Monday Night Raw, we're going to see Mr. Perfect in a qualifying match against Doink the Clown for another spot in the King of the Ring. Overall, not a bad show. I thought the main match there, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, was good. It was a fast-paced opener. It was one of the better matches we've seen. I think Shawn's really starting to cement that legacy of having good matches now. You know, he's had a couple of good ones with Hacksaw. We've had a good match there with Marty. You know, he's lost the IT Championship, but yeah, Shawn's definitely picking up pace, I think, as putting on the match of the night. It's not always a hard thing to do when you've got Smoking Guns versus Glen, Ruth and Tony, or, you know, Kamala and Yokozuna. But on the whole, not a bad show. We seem to be getting less complete squashes. Like, we've had the upset there with the kid, you know, Kamala, Yokozuna, both people that we do actually know, Shawn, Marty. Okay, you've got the first two, Tatanka and Scott Taylor and the Smoking Guns, but, you know, I thought the Smoking Guns had a decent debut. They looked okay. They hit some good sort of double team moves. The finish was botched, but, you know, maybe just getting used to it. Bit overexcited maybe. But all in all, not a bad show for, you know, 17th one. What are we, you know, 3 and a bit months in now? So I'm trying to do maths in my head now. All right, yeah, about 4 months in, and yeah, it's starting to pick up pace a bit. Monday Night Raw. Let's see what we get next week when we've got Mr. Perfect in a King of the Ring qualifying match. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wrestling Review podcast. Be sure to come back next time as we listen to another episode of Monday Night Raw. Please rate, review, follow the podcast, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram at TWRPod20.